Except for my mic's not on. Hi, I'm Brent Stafford, and this is RegWatch by regulatorwatch.com. Not too long ago, the question on everyone's mind was, could President Trump save vaping? Well, today the question is, how do we save vaping from President Trump? In an Oval Office announcement made last week, President Trump said the U.S. plans to pull most vaping products from the market, citing growing concerns about health hazards and rising use by teens of nicotine vaping products. The proposal would ban all flavored vapes, including fruit as well as menthol and mint, from stores and online sellers, leaving just tobacco-flavored products. If implemented, it would be a major crackdown that would, by intention, clear the market of flavored vaping products, and that's within just 30 days. Joining us today to discuss the Trump administration's misguided plan to ban flavored vaping products is Schell Hammel, who is a national vaping advocate, pioneering vape store owner, and one of our most favorite guests here on RegWatch. Schell, thanks for coming back on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Brent.
I wish under better circumstances. So let me ask you, and I'm going to get you to obviously fill our viewers in a lot about your background and expertise and so forth in vaping, but I want to know, like, right off the bat, what were your first thoughts when you heard the news that President Trump may ban flavors?
Well, I don't think I can say my first thoughts on air, but I think, fear. Fear was the first thought, and a big, huge question mark as to why would you go to this extreme, these extreme circumstances? And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I think just immediately I thought, okay, how do we survive? And so, I generally don't stay with staring at a brick wall. I generally look at it and go, how do I get through it? So, and that was my first thought is, how do we get through this? And survive as small businesses, as consumers, we're all of it. Consumers are our shop owners, are concerned about the consumers. So, how do we get through this? It did. I think all of us were feeling that. Whether you're Texas or any other state, I think everybody felt that sting. And when I think we feel a lot of stings all the time, whether it's state, city, of course FDA, and then of course the president. That was a rough one. I saw him backpedal a little bit, but I'm still a little concerned, of course, as everyone else is. So yeah, it did. It stung. Hi. 1 2 3 1 2 3 10 9 8 7 6 5 4 3 2 1. You know what? I think it's a conspiracy. Somebody does not want to hear. Can we reconnect? Okay.
Check 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right, so I'm there. You go ahead.
Check.
Schell?
1 2 3 4 5 6.
All right,
1 2 3
I have no
4 5
idea.
6.
I don't have no idea why that went down, but we're fine now. I've got audio. So,
Okay.
hey, could somebody let me know here on Facebook how much you caught of us? Were we just completely out? Brent, no sound. Not getting your audio. Brent Stafford. Brent, no audio. Okay, sounds good. There was no audio. So
At all the whole time?
it sounds like there was no audio the whole time. So
Well,
that's
good.
okay.
But I didn't
Well,
mess up. So no, we got to do that. I got to do that when it messes up.
yeah. That's hilarious, though. All the audio was there. The audio bars were, but they're back. So
Okay.
unbelievable. There's a bug somewhere going on, but we should be
I
fine.
still
Yeah.
claim conspiracy.
I would say that's the case too as well. All right, so then well, we're just gonna re-rack this, is what they call in television. It'll only be everyone. This is only going to be 10 seconds of this. I just want to have it at the start and then see if and we're just going to re-rack this. Hold on one sec. There was something weird going on. It was strange. Well, you know what? We got our audio, so that's it. So I'll just read. Our audio's gone.
Again?
Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The audio.
Telling you.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4. That. Unbelievable.
Wow.
So
Insane.
we were rolling. Oh. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Are we on?
It's back. That's crazy. All right, guys. So I'm just going to get started. I've got my eye on this audio here. There's something very strange going on.
It
All
just
right,
added to entertainment.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. You know what? And it may be. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we did all of this in our. There's absolutely nothing that drives me crazier than it falling apart right at the last minute.
Difficulties. Mm-hmm.
All right, hi, I'm Brent Stafford, and this is RegWatch by RegulatorWatch.com. Not too long ago, on everyone's mind was, could President Trump save vaping? Well, today that question is, how do we save vaping from President Trump? In an Oval Office announcement made last week, which I'm just going to throw up here right now. Actually, there it is. An Oval Office announcement that the president made last week, he said that the U.S. plans to pull most vaping products from the market, citing growing concerns about health hazards and rising use by teens of nicotine vaping products. The proposal would ban all flavored vapes, including fruit, as well as menthol and mint flavors from stores and online sellers, leaving just tobacco-flavored products if implemented. It would be a major crackdown that would, by intention, clear the market of flavored vaping products within 30 days. Joining us today to discuss the Trump administration's misguided plan to ban flavored vaping products is Schell Hammel, who is a national vaping advocate, pioneering vape store owner, and one of our most favorite guests here on RegWatch. Schell, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me, Brent.
Oh, thanks for putting up with our audio issue there. Schell, I'm going to ask you to fill in our viewers, some background and stuff, who you are. And I know that once we get you talking, I'll be fighting for space. But before we do that, I want to know, what were your first thoughts when you heard last week that President Trump was going to ban flavors?
Fear. I mean, fear was the first thought. Like I said before, I can't say what my first thought was on air, but fear. I mean, it was gripping. It was just, it seems to be just par for the course these days, but it was fear. How do we make sure that our shops survive? How do we make sure that our consumers have somewhere to go? That was it was a big statement, and fear is the best way I can describe it. I think that's pretty much will encompass everyone.
Mm-hmm. All right, so kiddo, we do have a problem here. We have a problem. Exactly what it is. So hold on for a second. But it's interesting that it's doing it right away. So at least that's fine, because we'll see here. I think maybe we have a shot at continuing here. Okay. Yeah, it's weird. It's some resources. I'm just waiting to see that, whether or not if feed it back. Okay, great. We're back. All right. So, Schell, let's not get fancy here right now, because it might be part of the problem is I got a lot of fancy going on. So let's leave fancy out of this for a second. So,
I've never been a
okay,
fancy girl anyway. Who cares?
well, on Friday, the president walked this back. So let me just walk the viewers here through a little bit. When I got the news with regard to President Trump's potential ban, it came through for me on the Wall Street Journal piece. And that just, wow, that just drove me nuts, because when you see it on the Journal, you know it's true, right? It's not going to be, there we go. Hold on for a sec. Okay. So it's not going to be something that
National Enquiry.
it's not,
Yep.
no, it's not CNN. It's not MSNBC. It's the Wall Street Journal. And so
Right.
that I just shook my head. I'll explain why I shook my head so strongly in a minute. But what I want to point out, and then I'll hand it to you, is that, you and I talked the very next day, and we share a certain, I would say, I'll let you discuss that. I mean, I've got an affinity for the president. I certainly felt that he could have potentially been somebody that could have made a big difference for vaping, and RegWatch covered the president when he took office from that position. But we titled this live stream "The Trump Treatment," because there certainly is now a particular kind of treatment that Trump gives certain issues. He comes in like a bull in a china shop and just goes around like that.
Yep.
And then,
Right.
yeah, so let's start there. Let's talk about bull in the
Okay.
china shop part here with the president. Go ahead.
Well, I think it was a knee-jerk reaction. I think that he has a lot of people in his ears. He's worried about his election coming up. He is, I'm sure, worried about the issue of minors, getting their hands on these products, because he's hearing from, a lot of people to fix this problem. And I can see that. But I think it was a knee-jerk reaction without all of the puzzle pieces being added in. And that's what he needs. He needs the puzzle pieces. So that's very important, because this topic, this conversation is not one-sided. Now, I know none of them are one-sided, regardless of what issue you're talking about. But this one it's so crucial to get all of the sides, because so many little things are so very important. So, he's hearing one side, and I'm fairly certain we know what side that is. But he needs to hear all of it and understand all of it, because flavors is not the answer. As a matter of fact, flavors will have the absolute counter effect.
We did just lose you there. Was that your Skype?
You lost me?
Oh no, you just stopped talking.
Oh no, I was done. I mean, I think that he's just not getting all of the puzzle pieces, and it's.
Well, I think it's important though.
Not a lot of us have, the access to Trump's door to go, hey, let's sit down and talk, bud.
Right. So let me make sure that you clarify something you just said, Schell, for our audience,
Sure.
and that is, you said flavors are not the answer. Well, what's the question? And I believe that's
Sorry. Eliminating flavors is not the answer. So, taking flavors off the market to help with, minors getting their hands on these products is not the answer. I mean, we tried tobacco 21. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. It's like everybody is trying to just keep putting this fire out, but without all the pieces to the puzzle, you can't put the fire out. And all you're doing is starting new fires. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what's going on.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Every time I hear a little click like that, I'm going, okay, make sure you're there.
I'm here.
So starting fires, that is though what the progressives love to do.
That's what the media loves to do. I don't know what the deal is right now with creating drama. Small issues become bigger issues, and my gosh, the house is on fire before you know it. And it's the environment we live in. I wish we could just slow it down, and everybody take a breath, listen to everything, and make judgment calls that are beneficial for society. Instead of looking 2 steps ahead, let's look 10. Stop looking 2 steps ahead and start looking 10.
I think obviously that one of the big issues, and we were talking about it there, is that it was inevitable, in my opinion, that the president was going to be inundated with this one side of messaging. Like, who really around the president it was going to be bringing him, pro vaping, pro harm reduction messaging, right? I mean, he's got the entire administrative state that's wrapped around him is all, bought into this narrative. Well, it's not like they're bought in; they're actually the generators of the narrative. I mean, CDC generates the narrative. Yeah, I mean, FDA has got like $450 million over 5 years, and that's just their advertising budget for the real cost. You've got Bloomberg. I mean, that $160 million that he gave to Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, I mean, that's certainly, he certainly spent that in the last 5 years already, right? Bloomberg has. Right. So, and then with the money coming into Truth and everything else, I mean, I can't imagine any other issue, maybe except for climate change, where there's more money being spent by foundations and government to push a narrative.
And more people talking that really just don't talk. If you don't have all the answers, just don't. But, I mean, that's true. That is true. I mean, there's so many things that come out on Twitter or what have you, and you read it, and sometimes you just shake your head and go, man, if you just knew the whole thing, you would see how foolish that statement is. But,
So the president, now, just fair warning here, I'm going to try to switch over to the computer again here as a feed, which may have been one of the reasons, but it shouldn't be. Okay, I think we still got audio. Yes, we do. So
I want to abyss.
Yeah, no, we're good. So we're still dealing with September 11th. I mean, can you imagine that it's on the 9/11 anniversary that he did this? I mean, it
definitely was.
It bothers me to all get-go that it was 9/11. Gee whiz, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's just, this. So I'm going to read a quote here. This is the quote from the president in the first part of what we curated from this story here from the Wall Street Journal. So, quote, President, "We have a problem in our country. It's a new problem," Mr. Trump told reporters in the Oval Office as he met with top health officials. "It's called vaping, especially vaping as it pertains to innocent children." Ooh. So that's, I mean, I don't know. He's overwhelmed here. He's got the First Lady on one side, who certainly runs part of that household, if you know what I mean.
Sure, right. Of course.
Yeah, and then you've got old Mr. Sharpless here, which is aptly named, I think, for somebody in his particular position. Yeah, I'm not below taking a shot at somebody's last name. I will do that. Yeah, I only wish it was Commissioner Dickhead, because then it would just be a lot easier, right? But anyhow, Sharpless will do, and. So to have this framed as, have the president, like, it's just so clearly, it's like, this is a new problem. Vaping is a new problem in the country. And then we have to do something about it by banning so we can, innocent children. It's just, oh my God, and no kidding that the FDA is sitting right there. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think it's disgusting.
Well, I mean, we've been saying there's an issue. They're juuling. I mean, it has its own term. There's an issue. We get it. We're dealing with it through Tobacco 21. We're dealing with it through education, educating parents, things like, but banning, I mean, it knee-jerk reaction. It's a knee-jerk reaction. And so, I mean, yes, there's a problem with the jewels and them getting their hands on the jewels, the other, high neck pods. That is the trend. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. I'm saying that's the problem. And that's what I'm hearing consistently, whether it's in the State House or, through the PTA soccer mom. It is what it is. And we have to deal with that, but we're dealing with it. We're working on it. And working with it, and I mean as a society. I don't mean as the industry. I mean as a society. We've got Tobacco 21 happening, and the education is definitely going out there. They've all seen it. So I think, is that what we're going to do? Everything we want to keep our kids from, just ban it. Let's just ban it. We can't do that, and it's not a reasonable response.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you about that. Let's talk a little bit about the reaction that happened because, of course, you must have gotten a few phone calls. The whole internet lit up, and it was interesting to watch people's feeds in the groups and on Twitter and stuff like that discussing their phone calls that they were making to the White House and the
Oh,
kind of
goodness. Wasn't that
treatment.
great to see?
That was awesome to see. I mean,
It was so awesome. The unity is, and I've been shouting that for years. The unity is fabulous. I mean, I just can't say that enough. I mean, you've got people wanting to go out and rally, and you've got people wanting to call, and we've got calls to action from GASA and SFATA and VTA, and everybody's really. I just love it. I love seeing that because, boy, but I hate that it took this. I wished everybody's head was in it, from the beginning, but and really working. But man, that was fabulous to see.
Yeah, and in fact, it was interesting because a lot of people were talking about negative reactions they were getting from the operators, getting hung up on and this and that. But then,
Heard about that.
yeah, pardon me.
I heard about that.
Yeah. But I think overall, though, I think a lot of people got through and got those calls logged. And then, of course, within minutes, I would imagine, after the announcement was, put out there from the president, there was a White House petition started. And ironically enough, when President Obama had instituted the White House petition, that was, big innovation,
Right.
to bring government more in touch with the people. And the Obama administration, when they brought that in, the threshold was only 10,000 signatures, digital signatures, in order for the White House to have to respond to a petitioner. And President Trump, actually, his administration upped that to 100,000 because they're like, really, come on, like 10. And vapors killed it in 36
That's right.
hours. Boom.
That's right.
Did
I
you
mean,
say?
and it's great. I mean, when they all come together and we do something like this, it's invigorating. It really is, and it gives me hope. That we can that brick wall again. How do we go through it? That's how we go through it together.
You said that had been receiving a lot of phone calls because, of course, you're a national vaping advocate. We use that term because you're a part of a bunch of different associations that you've played critical roles. Why don't you talk a bit about your background, Schell, and let me preface that you are an icon in vaping, and I
Oh
believe
goodness.
opened up one of the very first retail stores in the country.
I did. According to our research, we were the fourth brick and mortar to open in the United States. Um, we started when people would come in the door, and I actually love this. But at the time, I was just kind of pissed off that they said it, but they would walk in and go, you're going to close down in like a month. It's like, get out of my store. And of course, here it is, 8 years later. So 2011 is when we opened our doors. And, this was before any manufacturer. There were no manufacturers. We couldn't just call up, an e-liquid manufacturer and go, hey, send me a couple cases. You made that. And you worked really hard. And boy, some of them were really bad. But yeah, I mean, that's opened up in 2011. First found out the very first thing we had to really address was a smoking ban, a public use ban inside the Dallas area, which was Frisco, Texas. I think there were a couple more before that, but it was one of the very first. And so that was kind of how it got started. Never worked in any type of lobbying or anything of that nature before, and that's kind of what got me started. And then the state had a couple of bills, and I went there, and as SFATA at the time, which was the only thing around, as SFATA at the time, we had like 3 members, maybe 9 members in the beginning when I first went into that very first state hearing. And then I think, I don't know, within like 2 months, we grew to like 110 members within that session. And we have now successfully we've had 24 bills on the table. We've beat 22, excuse me. One of them is the 18 and over law that existed prior to this, now Tobacco 21, which was the governor's bill. But we did have an amendment, luckily, that went in that will help our cities and municipalities, protect them from things such as flavor bans or increase in age. But if Trump does that, well, that doesn't work either.
Well, let's talk now then a little bit about the good news. It's the Trump treatment we're talking about here, right? So I'm going to come in there and then realize I don't have all the information and so, which was inevitable, and thank goodness he did it. So on Friday, he came. It was a tweet at about, I think it was like, what was it? 6. So that's 3:30. This will be Pacific time. So 6:35 p.m. on Friday, the president comes out and he's like, "Well, I like the vaping," and he capitalizes the V, and the C for cigarettes. Well, I like the. I don't have a Trump impression.
You can't make his voice. Oh,
I haven't even bothered. I'm horrible at impressions. I just can't even do it. I barely can do Brent Stafford. So while I like the vaping alternative to cigarettes, we need to make sure this alternative is safe for all. Let's get counterfeits off the market and keep young children from vaping. So what do you make of the big backtrack there?
Well, first I have to say that he cannot say that anything is safe, because everybody tells me that. So cannot say that anything is safe. No, all kidding aside. He felt the heat. Go vapors. Everybody that called, everybody that signed the petition, everybody that called their all of their state reps and the White House and everything, man, go vapors. So I mean that is, it shows unity. It shows that he was feeling a little bit of the sting back. You said we felt the sting when he did that, and we did, and he felt a little bit of it back. And you know what? It's a heartfelt statement that these people are making. This is coming from the heart that, hey, this saved my life. I feel like this saved my life. And me personally, it absolutely did. And that's a hard sell to anyone. So when they go in there with their heart, it usually shows.
So let's unpack what happened here a little bit. There was a fan in the Washington Examiner, Paul Blair from where's the Americans for Tax Reform?
I love it.
Yeah, he's great. He wrote a fantastic piece. Banning flavored e-cigarettes might cost Trump re-election. I'm going to read parts of this here, and we'll jump in and out of it. In a striking blow to common sense and the well-being of millions of people, President Trump announced Wednesday that his administration would be moving forward on rules to prohibit the sale of all flavored e-cigarettes. This misguided move will kill more than 10,000 small businesses, eliminate nearly 90,000 jobs, and force millions of adults who use e-cigarettes to reduce and eliminate their dependence on harmful cigarettes, who use them to quit smoking, basically, to seek out vaping products on the unregulated black market or return to smoking. So let's start there. There's a bunch of stuff I want us to talk about. First of all, there's the big, let's set health stuff aside and everything else aside. There are 90,000 jobs at stake. There's 10,000 businesses. That's tax revenue. I mean, those are small businesses. Not all of them are small businesses. It is a $7 billion industry in the United States, but it's a $7 billion a year industry. And so the president, FDA is not telling him that. FDA, CDC, Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, they're just one simple message, right? Ban kids, death.
Right.
Right. Meanwhile, though, there's a whole industry out there of people that are saving lives.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an entire other side. Like I said, that piece of the puzzle that he's missing. You've got a whole other side here that you're slitting their throats when you say things like that. They're taking it to heart because you're taking a lot from them, and so it's that other piece of the puzzle that they just that is just not there and doesn't have his ear. But we need it, and we need to tell our story. We need to educate it.
So there's got to be at some point, I think, a realization. It's not just quitting smoking and everything else. There's also a liberty issue here.
Of course. I mean, of course. I mean, that goes without saying for sure. It's free enterprise and I mean, there's a lot of liberties here that we would be losing. And there's so much. I mean, you could say a lot with that statement. There is so much that we're losing with just that statement. And like I said, that's why I think it caused fear across the board with everyone.
Yeah, George Will, who I don't normally always George Will is an ever-Trumper, and he's a long-time, obviously, Washington correspondent. I think he's ABC News, or at least was, but writes for National Review and everything else. I mean, this guy's old-school neocon kind of journalist, but he just wrote, I guess it's like, would be like the book of his life kind of thing in terms of, ideologically. And it's called The Conservative Sensibility. And I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic book. He was on Tucker, and even Tucker was like, looked at the audience and said, you know what, guys, this is a really good book. And it really, really is. And I mean, there's 3 chapters in there when he's describing progressives, right? Because I talk about progressives all the time. People think I'm getting overly political. No, the issue is that you don't know anything about the recent history of politics in the United States. That's the real issue. Progressives they define our politics, and they're on both sides. There's progressives on the Republican side and progressives on the Democratic side.
Right.
However, the progressives on the left are more vocal and a little bit more active, but they're on both sides. And once you start understanding that, then you can start to really understand the kind of the pickle that vaping can be in, because it is very clear that very few people on the GOP side are likely to want to stick their neck out for vaping, certainly at a height like this when, they've managed to conflate and confound in the lung deaths, associated with it.
Right.
It's just much easier to just take the social justice virtue side and take the side of protecting the kids, right? And that's where you get a statement like the president said, we got to protect innocent children. And then that's when everything fell down on him.
Right. Well, I mean, and as you said, I mean, we're talking about an adulterated product that was THC. It wasn't even a nicotine product. So they've lumped all of this in with vaping. But, I mean, the flip side is they're constantly saying, we should make marijuana legal. And so it's just ironic. To me, it's very ironic. But, it is something that many of them, you're right, will not take to task unless it affects them personally. The guy that goes home and drinks red wine, or maybe he drinks, flavored liquor, let him tell them that they're going to take that away. Then it becomes personal and like, whoa, hold on here. I'm over 18. This is my choice. And so you don't see that happen very often. And it's, a lot of people don't want to take that to task, especially when you involve kids. Then, that term, whether it's minors or, teenagers or kids or children, that seems to, it's a hard stop for a lot of these people. And those that do stick their neck out, and go, now hold on, I mean, there's some people that say that it's a parental issue. There's some people that say it's an industry issue. There's all kinds of things. But when the rubber meets the road, it is a product that is for adults. End of story. It is a product that was made and intended for adults. That should be enough.
It should be enough, right? Adults are so left out of this conversation almost entirely. Obviously, we've said it before, they seem to be throwing, adults under the bus. I don't even say that anymore. I've been saying that, tobacco control was prepared to breed out the last of the adult smokers. It's worse than throwing under the bus. It's like the process. They thought they had this one, with this new generation, and vaping has spoiled that for them.
It's so much worse than that, and it's so much bigger than that. I mean, it's so much bigger. Anyone who is out there that has lost a family member, lost a friend, a loved one, it doesn't matter. Anyone who has lost someone to the person that sat in that big easy chair in the living room and smoked their cigarettes, 1 and 2 packs at a time, and you lost them, and then you find this answer to the tobacco problem for all of those adults that the patch didn't work, the gum didn't work. Why didn't it work? Because it doesn't simulate smoking. And we have this product and this answer to the tobacco problem for all of those individuals. And we look back and go, God, I wish I could have given this to them as opposed to here. But those that we sat and said, try this, and it worked. And you go, and they're breathing improved. I don't care what anybody says about, you can't claim anything. I'm not claiming anything. I'm telling you what happened. Their breathing got better. They felt better. Their doctors were impressed with their health and their condition at that point. And anyone who's seen that, and then you want to demonize it. It's incredible to me. We wake up every day, roll over and go, I get to change somebody's life today. And that is an amazing feeling, because you don't just change their life. You change their grandkids' life and their children's life and everybody's life around them. We've seen it happen over and over again. And to have to fight consistently to keep it on the market. Oh, but wait, while cigarettes remain, nobody's fighting that. But to fight consistently to keep this product on the market baffles me. It just baffles me.
Yeah. It's me. What baffles me is that how far they will go, that they're willing to completely corrupt the CDC. I mean, the CDC, and I'm just going to reiterate from our discussion with Dr. Michael Siegel from last week, and to make sure that our audience really understands what happened here, is when the CDC put their alert out on August 30th to the entire medical community across the country, telling them what to look for, what to report back in order to diagnose, so they can nail down what was causing these deaths. The CDC did not ask for urine or blood samples. The only way that the entire world is going to know exactly what these teens were vaping, is by what the teen tells the doctor. I mean, that's shocking. That just. But
that's not the piece of the puzzle they want.
No, it is not. No.
That's the problem, is we've got so many, skewed pieces of the puzzle. Well, I don't want that one. I just want that one. Or I don't want to tell you that it's THC. So I'm going to tell you like 3/4 of the way down the article that it was THC. But at the big article says vaping killed blah, 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 and you're going, it's shameful.
Well, yeah, because it's on purpose.
Because it's creating that fire. Yeah, it's creating that fire. Let's create these fires, before and the house is on fire, but they don't even see. It's crazy. They don't even see 10 steps ahead of them. Instead of looking 2, look 10. 10 steps ahead of you. How many fires are you creating from starting this one? And that's the problem.
Well, and eventually you hope that from this side of if you're on side of vaping, you hope that the fires are burning in such a way that it becomes impossible for regular people to not see that they were purposefully lit. So that's what.
I don't think you're going to see it. I think it's going to be the quiet fires. I think it's going to be the fires that are inside the homes. And I mean, this is what I'm talking. I mean, you take flavors away. Let's say you take flavors away from the market, and all of these individuals decide that, well, they're just going to go back to smoking, or even better yet, they're going to go to the convenience store type product, the higher nicotine. So they're going to have a higher nicotine dependency, or they're going to start smoking. Where do they want these people to go? I mean, literally, you go, choose this or this. And so they don't see those small fires, because then later on, what are they going to say? Oh, he died because of smoking-related illnesses. Oh, wait, because you pushed him there.
So let's go back to Paul Blair's piece, because this will add something interesting. Because I believe that I agree on the small fires issue, but I think that the better look. Here's a forest fire analogy. So if the opponents to vaping are out there setting some pretty decently sized wildfires, right? What the vape on people on side of vaping need to do is create those backfires, right? To
Agreed.
rush up to get, so to burn through some of that. So one of the ways they can do that, which I believe the opportunity here with President Trump, and that's why this piece is called the Trump treatment, because the Trump treatment is bull in a china shop, but then that stirs stuff up, right? And if there is a issue that needed some Trump stirring, it's this one. So we may think that, well, we wanted Trump to come out with some supportive statement about vaping. Well, why would he ever do that, right? So what's happened is that he gets pulled into this misinformation mill. He makes this statement that's as brazen as it can be, and basically, as the chief executive of the country, I'm banning everything. And then now everybody comes back and the backfire jumps down on him. And there's an opportunity here that the president might go look around and go, okay, well, wait a minute. Governor Cuomo from New York, I'm on his side. I'm on CNN's side on this issue. I'm on MSNBC's side on this issue. Who else am I side on? The people that scream about climate change, I'm on their side on this issue. The same people that are that are against him on climate change, the same people that are against him on guns, the economy, and borders, right? All Alexandria Cortez, all of them are part of the anti-vaping group. So, Trump's got a pretty good sense where he takes a look around and goes, well, if this is my enemy here, where else are they my enemy? And so that's what makes this thing so unusual. So what I'm hoping is that that clampdown's happening on him, and really the realization is going to happen with him, that he's going to see, wait a minute.
Right. I mean, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is that he's only getting a piece of the puzzle. He's only getting a certain side. And I agree with you. I mean, I think the writing should have been on the wall, but then you're talking about children. So the writing is never on the wall when you're talking about children. It's only, it's supposed to be pretty glaring, but it has two sides in this situation. It has two sides that I think that he definitely noticed. His next tweet definitely showed that he's hearing. He's getting it a little bit. I hope that he continues to get it, and that the education is happening. But yeah, I mean, he was only getting one side, and he was definitely pulling from the children aspect and making sure that we keep these out of the hands of minors. So, and that's all. I mean, all of us want that. Every one of us want that. We agree with that statement 100%.
So what's also the big impact here, and we're going to go back to Paul Blair's piece, and go ahead and have a vape there if you need one there, Schell. So I'm going to read this next little bit out, because it is a fantastic article that Paul did. So, a ban on flavored e-cigarettes could cost Trump a second term. Census data and a state-by-state analysis of the prevalence of adult vaping published in the Annals of American Medicine in 2016 suggest vapors vote and could threaten to derail Trump's re-election campaign. Voters in at most 12 states with an adult population of 79 million will determine the outcome of the presidential election next year. So a small number of states, just 12, with around 80 million voters, will actually decide it. These states include Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Georgia, Minnesota, New Hampshire, Maine, Arizona, and Nevada. Based on the most recently available FDA-funded survey data, 4.15 million adults in these states use electronic cigarettes. It's decent, just over 4 million vapors in those states. So the numbers are about 62% of the voting age population voted in the last presidential election. So that means roughly 2020, we can expect around 2.5 million adults who vape to be voting in just these battleground states. So 2.5 million adult vapers who are actually going to be voting in 2012. So think about this. Trump won Michigan by under 11,000 votes in 2016, where there are 420,000 adult vapers. Staggering numbers also in play in Florida, where Trump won by 112,000 votes. There's almost a million vapers. Wisconsin, where Trump won by 22,000 votes, and there's at least 270,000 vapers. Minnesota, where Clinton won. So Clinton, that was the big one, Minnesota, which is a huge progressive state, right? Minnesota and Wisconsin is where progressivism comes from, funny enough. Minnesota, where Clinton won by 44,000 votes, there's over 172,000 vapers in Minnesota. And then in Pennsylvania, which of course the big steel state, which came huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was huge for Trump.
Yeah.
So Trump won by 44,000 votes, and there's 450,000 vapers. So this is the message that needs to ring through to the president, which I'm sure has been getting to him, because vapers are, for a large part, his base. And if they're not his base, they can certainly take the presidency away from him.
Right. I love Paul Blair and his data. It's so wonderful anytime he comes to the table with pen and paper and gives that to us. But absolutely. I mean, he has to look at that. He's looking at re-election. He has to look at that, and it has to be shocking to him. And I'm pretty sure that that's going to make a big difference. It should make a big difference, because a lot of people are one issue voters. So they are going to vote on the individual that is going to hear them. And that's some of our problem, is that most days they're listening to, like you said, CDC and all of the ants and the health groups and those that only have a piece of the puzzle themselves. And these individuals that are out there want to be heard. I mean, I think that's where we're lost. We have so many people in Congress that are listening to everyone else except for the people that they're supposed to be serving. We're supposed to be working for those people and for their rights and what they need. And that's what we're missing.
That is what we're missing for sure. I want to just quickly, I'm just so scared of pressing buttons.
Don't push any buttons. Buttons.
I do have to press some buttons here. I want to let everybody know, let's see here. Does the button work? Yes, it did. To please consider supporting RegWatch coverage. It's absolutely critical that we get viewers to come on board and help with our funding for this great content. This is our 207th piece in 4 years. About 165 to maybe 180, something like that, crazy number, are all about vaping. The algo doesn't work on Google, so we're growing it slowly. But Facebook is where we really shine. And so we need everybody to take a chance, take an opportunity, go to support.regulatorwatch.com. You can do monthly, which is what we're really hoping for. $5 means a lot. $10 means a lot. If we can get, if we can long tail this, that'd be great. And then, of course, you can do one-time donations too as well. It can't all be borne by the businesses, because the businesses have been doing this all on their own, and of course they're hurting just like everybody else is. So yeah, there you go. So I'm pressing buttons again here, Schell, and it's not happening.
Uh-oh.
The audio is working, so that's good. All right, so so again, yeah, and hold on for a second. There we go. All right, there we go. So I just left that up for a little bit longer, just on purpose. Support.regulatorwatch.com. It's a fancy support site I spent way too much time and money doing. But, the one last thing I want to mention about that is that I spent that extra time and money to have the system built on our own site, on our own controlled site. So our relationship with our supporters is direct. Only Stripe is in the middle, right? That's it. And anytime you contribute, you actually get a receipt back So that you can use to write off if you're a business, and you can use that for marketing expenses. It's the exact same way that the industry has been working with RegWatch and will continue to work with RegWatch. But this is your opportunity to kick in. And we didn't use Patreon because I didn't want to have like Snowflake Patreon get mad at us someday because of vaping and cut us off. And boy, when the president is threatening a ban on vaping products, that could have been the case. So I guess in the end, I'm happy that I spent that extra time. So Schell, let's get back to you now. I wanted to ask you specifically about flavors, because that's obviously the key thing. It's what the president is talking about banning. Is there a solution to this flavors issue, do you think, that could be brought forth from industry to help cut FDA and everybody off at the pass?
Well, first, let's talk about some of the issues with it, with getting rid of flavors. I was there from the beginning. And what we saw were individuals that would come in, and of course we had tobacco. Now back then you had to use tobacco absolute to get a tobacco flavor. Don't ever use that, not good. But we did have to use that in the very beginning because that was the only thing available at the time. So we had tobacco flavors, to help them wean, and we noticed that they were going through this process where it started tasting bad. They come in and go, oh my gosh, what did you do to this? It tastes terrible. And we realized their taste buds were regenerating, and that tobacco flavor was tasting bad. And we were like, oh man, we've got to figure something out. So we put a few flavors out there, and maybe it was banana or whatever. And somebody would be like, you know what? I like banana, but I don't want to vape it all day. And then so we had, and next thing you know, we turn around, we got 140 flavors. Well, because you got to choose one and have one that works for somebody, and not only works for them, but works with them consistently all day. So that's why they're there. There's a true scientific reason why these are there, and a successful, journey for these individuals. And so, if you get rid of that, you break that success. It's a known issue. It will break. And that's an issue. That's a huge issue. Another issue with it is, let's say we ban flavors. What type of black market do you think you're going to have then? Holy cow. You're worried about adulterated products now? Wait until you ban flavors. I mean, I can't even fathom the type of products that will be on our streets then. Right now we're regulated. Right now we have to report to the FDA ingredients and what have you. So wait until that happens. I mean, those are those little fires that I'm telling you that are starting behind the scenes because they're looking 2 steps ahead instead of 10. So those are very, very important things. So what is my solution? Well, and I don't speak for anyone except myself. Okay. And what I've learned about the process, whether it is in state, whether it is in FDA, doesn't matter. They have a problem, but they want you to come to the table with a solution. It is what it is. They want an answer. So you don't ever go and have a rally with, this is the problem. We don't have an answer for you. We just know we don't want that. They want an answer. They want to know how to fix the problem. And if you don't like their way, then what way will work? There's 2 things. Number one, we cap the amount of nicotine that is inside of these products. We have products out there that are higher nicotine content than have ever been in history. Why? I mean, I don't understand why. And I get a lot of answers and reasoning. And some of them, hey, past smoker, 24 years, if you're going to bring me an answer, then I have to internalize it too, because I was a smoker. So some people bring the answers, but I don't see why they are needed. They weren't needed to get, the 70-something thousand people we've gotten off smoking. So I don't know that they are absolutely needed on the market. So I think that we put a limit of that nicotine, somewhat just like the UK did. Put a limit on that nicotine, inside these products. I think that's the first thing. When minors come into the shop, when they used to come into the shop, now we turn them around, gotta go. But when they would come in and ask for the product before, because usually we would wait until they got to the counter and ask for their ID prior to that. But now we're asking for the ID immediately. But prior to that, we'd go, why do you even want these products? And of course, now that I'm out, and when I'm out and talking to some of them, and I'll catch them, using a Juul or what have you, and go, why do you even want that? They would go, oh gosh, for the buzz. Well, you got them for the buzz now. They come in for the buzz, or they come in because of a friend let them borrow it or try it or what have you. They start it for the buzz, then they have the nicotine dependency. Okay, so let's say that we've got all these individuals that are now dependent on nicotine after they thought it was fun for the buzz. You have products out there. We have goals inside these shops. They start at 24, 28, whatever it is, and go down to 0 because they help them wean down, right? You've got goals inside these shops. These nicotine products that are on these shelves are 50, 30 milligrams. Who's going to help them get off of it later? Who's going to help them wean down later? Get rid of flavors. You get rid of all the vapor shops across the country. Who's going to help your problem then?
Right.
So that is an issue. So another one is, I debate with this one internally with this one. But we have data that suggests, and there's a couple of different ways to look at this, but there is data that highly suggests across the country, and I've done the numbers, I've sat down and written it down and put pen to paper. The FDA does sting operations and sends minors into convenience stores. They send minors into vape shops to see if we are selling to minors. After that, they issue warning letters across the country.
Schell, let me just
Yes.
interrupt you for a sec because I want to make sure that you see this too as well. I'm putting the map up for.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And
please.
do you see that?
I do not.
Okay, but you know the map, so they can.
I do know the map. Now I can't quote the numbers for you.
Okay.
But across the country, they issue these warning letters, and these warning letters go, say that basically they have sold to a minor. They are known to sell to a minor through their investigative process, whatever that may be. And out of all of those numbers that you see on there, only 6%, actually less than 6%, just slightly less than 6%, are vapor-only stores. Less than 6%. Now, you can say, well, that's because there's a lot of convenience stores out there. You also can see a trend in certain areas where you're having a lot more warning letters go out. Is that because we're lacking in education in that area? Is that because we're lacking in training in that area? What are we lacking in that area? Are we lacking organization? Do we not have a SFATA chapter or a VTA chapter or someone out there training these individuals and teaching them about that? We can learn a lot from these numbers. So the question is, do we take them out and put them in 18 and 21 over shops only so that we don't have this issue with minors getting these from convenience stores or quick shops or grocery stores? The thing is, what is going to move the needle? If you are telling me that taking flavors away from the industry is going to help with this, epidemic, as they call it, which is, if it's going to help take these out of the hands of minors or give them access to them, I'm going to say the data does not show that. The data shows that we're having issues in certain areas on education. The data shows that we're having issues inside convenience stores or inside areas where maybe we don't have a chapter to educate and train. That's what the data is showing me. So if the data shows that way, then maybe that's our answer. But flavors is not the answer because you will have the adverse effect.
Yeah, banning flavors is not the answer.
It is not the answer. I don't understand. I don't even understand why flavors was even put in here for a THC product that was adulterated, black market. But that's exactly what was handed over. And it makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever why you would attack flavors inside the product when their data shows you completely otherwise, that, we've got some high neck products out there and we've also got some issues within our retailers that we need to address.
Well, the flavors thing, I mean, obviously there's the hypocrisy of it all because you walk into any liquor store, cold beer and wine store, grocery store, and just go down the aisle and it's flavors galore. All, total candy
Yeah, but,
flavors.
but think about it this way. If you've got a ton of adults, minors, whatever they are, that are nicotine dependent now because of all of that, do you think they care about the flavors at that point? They're going to use tobacco product or whatever is available. That's what they're going to do. And guess what? Now you don't have the vape shops because you took away all the flavors. So nobody's going to be able to wean them down off that. So then tell me what's your answer. Because I'm telling you right now, 2 steps, 10 steps. Start looking 10 steps ahead.
Well, it's interesting because I wonder, because being, a 25-year smoker myself before I switched over to vaping, I can't say because I'm unadulterated. What is it? Unadulterated? Is that the right word? Fact of the matter is, I'm poisoned already by nicotine. I'm tainted by nicotine for my entire life. So I don't know. But I wonder what let's remove all the crap and everything else, the propaganda, because it's just all propaganda. I wonder what a nicotine addiction to, say, a Juul device would really look like for, a regular person, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, even if you want to go that young. But, what, because I do know from the research that we've seen, and there's little of it actually comparing the two. We haven't seen a lot, but even colloquially, I know that there's a lot of other things inside a cigarette. That other stuff that gets the nicotine to your brain and everything else, all the chemicals that are killing you, those
Sure.
actually increase the addictive quality. And I've found myself that I can go much longer period of time without having a vape than I could ever have gone without having a smoke.
That's true.
Does
That
that
is
make
very true. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I mean, where's the real data that's talking about that, the fierce nicotine addiction? I mean, the propaganda we're hearing right now is that these kids, are forever, like, it's almost like they've been doing heroin, Come on.
Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, you do, because the addictive qualities inside a cigarette are many. I mean, there are many of those toxins that are addictive, and they have to be, because once you get off of them, I mean, you start releasing that, and you can tell that you're releasing those toxins. And even with using a vapor product, you go through some withdrawal type symptoms, and headaches and things like that. So I absolutely agree with you, with those chemicals being, and there hasn't been any data. There hasn't been any type of studies, that show that. I mean, all we had was cigarettes in the past, that it was highly addictive, and I mean, I think they even went as far as saying it was as addictive as heroin, which is absolutely crazy. But that's all they had to go by was, tobacco. And so nowadays, I mean, but, nowadays it would be different. But the higher the nicotine, of course, the higher the addictive properties. I mean, so I don't understand why we're trying to, I don't understand why it's, faster and harder, faster and harder. I mean, it seems like everything these days is just faster and harder. Well, I don't think that we need that high of nicotine out there. I just don't think it's a necessity.
And fair enough. I mean, some people will totally agree with you on that. From RegWatch's point of view, it says the editorial position of RegWatch is that, if you shouldn't be telling people that they can't put vape in their body, then you shouldn't be telling them about their choice of nicotine strength. That's been kind of our editorial position. And, one of the big reasons why we've got that is when we first started covering this issue. So 4 years ago, I remember one of our first interviews we had with Clive Bates. So, and we've had many with Clive, but it was our first one with Clive and several months into our coverage. And he explained to us that, at that time, the biggest challenge for vaping is getting the nicotine to the brain fast enough. Because just, through the regular back then, 4 years ago, wasn't getting to the brain fast enough. And he was explaining about how inhalation from combustion gets to the brain so fast, and all the chemicals in the smoke gets to the brain so fast. And so, really, you've got to have faster acting nicotine, stronger nicotine. And he made a very compelling argument for that. Now, what was interesting for us was about a year later is when the Royal College of Physicians in the UK, in England, released, the infamous and famous, nicotine without smoke report, 200 pages of basically, I don't want to say raw vaping, but in the context of everything else, it's raw vaping. But I mean, it was a strong recommendation to countries around the world to properly regulate e-cigarettes, to have those regulations promote the use of e-cigarettes. And then, of course, it reiterated Public Health England's statement, which came out of the Dave Nutt paper, which was that vaping is 95% less harmful than smoking. And talking with Professor John Britton, who was he was the chair of the Tobacco Advisory Committee for RCP. He was on the show, and this was just the day after they released the report. And he also explained in great detail about how the biggest challenge for vaping will be the nicotine getting to the brain faster, right? So RCP recommended no levels of, floor or ceiling on nicotine levels and stuff. They were like, give the smoker as much nicotine as they need, because if they try vaping and they don't get enough nicotine, then they will give up on the effort and they may never quit smoking. And so when I look at what Juul did with the technology around salt nic, so being the technology of the vaping juice and the high nicotine content, I just see them doing exactly what the professionals, the people like the Royal College of Physicians, had been recommending to be developed in order to, take a pack a day smoker. I was a 2-pack a day smoker for 10 years before I quit. And yeah, I just, for me, I'm just like, geez, what Juul did was right, in my opinion, in terms of what apparently was needed to be done. Now, when Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and Truth and stuff like that, they're out there and they're saying they engineered this nicotine to hook kids. Well, that's just, that's a lie. They engineered the nicotine for, pack-a-day smokers, right, for it to be effective. And that's why and when they say that, a pod contains the equivalent of 20 cigarettes, oh my God. Well, guess what? A pack of cigarettes contains 20 cigarettes. And that's what a pod is supposed to do. So, just putting that out there for the viewers and you. I mean, I'm not so challenged by the nicotine issue.
And you know what? There's going to be people that disagree or agree with that. I have 70,000 plus, individuals that have quit without that amount of nicotine. Yes, I think that there could be a market for it, but it didn't happen. It wasn't required for years and years and years. We didn't have the teen elevation until that it was introduced into the market. The UK apparently saw that as well, and they don't have that issue with minors. So they, and not only that, it does open the door for other health issues. What if somebody drinks it? There's a lot of different things that it opens the doors for liability across the board.
You make a good point too. And then actually, quite frankly, it might be a good bone to throw to the regulators in order to maybe get them to ease off in terms of some pressure.
Right. Well, and it's like I said, it's a controversial topic. I know it's controversial, but we've got to come to the table with some kind of answer to address the problem. And flavors is not it, because it has 10 times a larger reaction negatively for the entire population. I just don't think that is the answer. So we've got to come to the table with some type of answer, and that's the best one I can come up with thus far that will address the issue and address it overnight.
So, Shell, you're talking about an answer, and I mean, I do agree with you. I mean, I've got an editorial position, but it doesn't mean that it's right. And the industry does need to negotiate with government to sort this out. Now, that let me bring back to a question I've been asking for a couple of years now. And I flew down to Dallas a year and a half ago, and excuse me, sat down with you and had
Right.
this conversation about who's actually doing this negotiating. I mean, here we are, things are blowing up, and is there dialogue going on with government? Because I don't know who's having that conversation.
I mean, I think we're all trying. We're all trying. It's who is going to open the door and listen. I mean, that is really the issue. Everyone is trying with the FDA. We've sat down. We sat down as a group and spoke with Mitch Zeller just recently. So we're all trying to address the issue. The problem is that we're working against some people with some really deep pockets and some high pressure, and it is difficult. I wish that instead of us constantly pounding on doors, that they would be the type of individual to open their door and say, you know what, I need to talk to you. Why don't you sit down and tell me the other side of the story? We need that type of government, and not just on this issue, on all issues. Flavors. Adults like flavors. I mean, we are not void of wanting and liking things. There's a chemical reason why they're there. There's a scientific reason why they're there. We like them, and it's an adult product. That it really should be a conversation that we're not reaching out to them and trying to break down their doors, that they're reaching out to us. It really should be that way.
Right, and it makes it a little difficult too because they framed everything so much that vaping is now big tobacco and demonized to that point. It's that it makes it even harder for them to work with industry if we're big bad big tobacco. But it's interesting.
And it's terrible because going on that point right there. There was a time when we used to be, the ones who were out there to help and save, these individuals from this demonized product. And what's so ironic to me is that we were the ones who saw it and said, like I said, we're going to wake up every morning and we're going to change lives, and we're going to help these people get off this product and get away from these toxic chemicals and dying. That is the truth, from dying. And in the end, the one we were trying to save them from are the only ones going to be left standing. How ironic is that?
Yeah, it's
So,
ironic. It's ironic, and part of it I think is got some purpose behind it because the more successful vaping is, the harder it is for vaping because, of course, there's a lot of money that the big, huge tobacco control industry lives off of. I mean, that industry
and
feeds
they
off it.
know, yeah, and they know if they keep doing this, that we have to surrender at one point, or we'll never surrender. I mean, that's just not going to happen. It's not in my blood, but we're going to be beat down so much that we have no more to give to fight. It takes money to fight. And if they keep attacking us from all sides, it gets harder and harder for us to fight. Not that we won't crawl up there, but they know that. And
Yeah,
yeah,
well, of
it's
course.
stressful.
Yeah, it's stressful. It's stressful. It's hard. They're trying to get you. They're trying to get industry to give up. There's no doubt, right? But again, let's bring this
We're not
back.
giving up. We're
That's
not giving up. They can forget it. Good luck.
Well, there is a reality of what happens when 90 to 100,000 people who had jobs don't have jobs in 30 days. I mean, they're talking 30
Exactly.
days, like we're going to just turn this off in 30 days. Well, guess what? If you do that, then, well, better do that than to strangle the industry for another 2 years, because at least in 30 days, there will be a measurable, marked impact that will be undeniable. That'll happen. I mean, can you
I
imagine?
hope I hope if that ever happened, the consumers will come out in droves, because they are the reason we opened a shop. They are the reason that we fight every single day. It doesn't have anything to do with my business. I will lose my business tomorrow. That does not affect me. I watched my grandfather die because of this. So I guarantee you, I pray they come out in droves because, and it's mayhem on the DC steps. I really do.
How important is it, Schell, for people that are watching the show and for every vapor in the U.S., how important is it for them to not take solace in the president's backtrack tweet? Do you understand the question? Because
yeah, absolutely. I think in these days, regardless of the president's tweet, you don't take solace in anything these days. Don't let your guard down at all, because it's coming from all sides. And trust me, the news will change tomorrow. Something else will happen. That's what seems to happen so much. And instead of feeling beat down, which I kind of want to sometimes, instead of feeling beat down, let it invigorate you, let it regenerate you, and push you forward, because this is that important. And don't wait until it comes, literally the flood comes up to your door. Start pushing it back now. But definitely don't lay down. Don't lay down and say that it's going to be fine.
Yeah, it's not fine. It's nowhere near fine. This is so not over, it's not even funny.
Don't take solace in anything at this point.
No, for sure. All right, so Schell, I mean, was there anything else that I know that when we were talking at the end of last week, I want to make sure that we get all the stuff that you wanted to get in there in today's conversation. Oh, one thing I know that you had mentioned to me some time back is that didn't you apply for something with the Center for Tobacco Products?
Oh, I did. How jaded. I gotta be careful here. Yes. A position came up for the TPSAC committee, which is the Tobacco Products Science Advisory Council. And I applied. I got an interview. I was first told that I probably shouldn't interview and continue with the process, because they generally like PhDs to be up there and to be giving advice. Now, this is the TPSAC committee panel for those that represent small business. Okay, so my response to that was, we have enough PhDs. We've got enough people with PhDs. We need boots on the ground. We need you to understand what's really happening. We need those people in there that live it, breathe it, eat it every single day. That's what we need. And that it went, yeah, they didn't choose me. They definitely didn't choose me for that committee because I don't have a PhD, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm small town West Texas girl, no PhD, but I definitely have the mind of every vapor, and I own a shop and I own a lab, and I have that real life experience that I think they're missing. They're missing that real life view. And if it's for small business, who better to be in there?
Yeah, I think that's the key.
Represents small business.
Right, that's the key part of that message there, right? Is that they're specifically looking for small business to represent small business, and then they get egghead PhD, right? So
it doesn't make any sense to me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got blocked out of that. Trust me, they saw my name, saw what I do, and I got blocked out of that before that even before that paper even fell on their desk.
So let's just make sure that we've got some of this wrapped properly right. So a recommendation then from you would be for industry to consider capping nicotine. That could help, right?
If you're talking about minors getting this in their hands, and why they're starting it, they definitely have made it very clear it's for the buzz. Some of them, I've seen them. Have you seen them on YouTube where they're stacking 5 of them and using them all at once?
You know what? But kids are stupid. Now, here's the deal. Where are the parents? Parents just drive me crazy. Parents and educators, they drive me nuts. Kids do stupid things. They do stupid things all the time. They do some really stupid things.
But Brent, that argument is not working.
Well,
That argument is not working. The truth of the matter is that we can all sit and say, hey, kids are stupid. Kids are going to do this. I get it. I have kids. I have kids. I've already gone through the teen years with one of them and the middle of teen years with the other one. And I get it. And they're going to do stupid things. And you're going to go out to their car one day and accidentally, he'll kill me if I said this, accidentally get a message on your iPad that was supposed to come from his phone and go out and pull out cases of beer one day and put it out on the island and go, what the hell is this? It's going to happen. I get it. But that argument is not working. We can scream it all day, but it's not working. So what will work? What will appease them besides taking this away from us and out of our hands to continue helping these smokers? What?
Well, what? Probably nothing, Schell. You've got to win the political battle, right? Like see progressives with liberty, they believe that power grants. They believe power. Yeah, they believe power grants liberty. So it's power over liberty. And they've got power. That's the power of the administrative state, the power of politics, the postmodernist kind of power, right? And they're exercising power to remove. There's probably not since peacetime, in peacetime, been a removal of liberty to the extent that it was from banning smoking, right? Like that was a huge removal of liberty. People forget that. Like smokers tried to fight that for 20 years and then they eventually lost that battle. They didn't lose the battle because smokers were dying. They didn't lose the battle because smokers were costing too much money on the healthcare system. They lost the battle in the liberty because progressives were able to prove that your behavior was killing other people. So it wasn't until secondhand smoke, right? And that secondhand smoke wasn't a proven thing until, late 90s, 2000s. And so it was only when they were able to prove that your behavior was killing others that they were able to take your liberty away from smoking.
But let me tell you where they did take the liberty away, okay? Which was, and the argument worked. And it's the argument that's being given. And that is that flavors aren't allowed in tobacco. You're absolutely right. It's not. It's not allowed in tobacco. These are totally different products. They work in a totally different way. So I'm trying to ask, what can we live with as an industry, as a consumer, because I'm a consumer too. So I'm not just talking industry here. I'm talking consumer. What will work that we can live with besides these flavors? Because, hey, I'm sitting back behind a desk. I'm a politician of some sort. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a vapor. Somebody walks in and says, hey, these kids are getting addicted to this product. These flavors are really enticing to them. We need to get rid of these flavors. It's not allowed in cigarettes. Why should it be allowed in this? That argument works. What argument of ours will work? Because the argument of what you're saying is not working and it's not moving the needle. So we got to come up with another one.
True. What about C-stores? Pulling product from C-stores?
It's a thought. I do not like limiting the access to these products for consumers. I don't like that. However, we all know there are vapor shops abundant everywhere. So I know that they can get it. I don't think there's anywhere you can open a store where there's not one across the street. So I know that they can get it. So I don't think the access would be that much. Or the limited access would be that much. But the numbers represent that it would do a huge amount. So if those numbers are true, you've got 94% of a change overnight. So would it work? Yeah, because I think our vapor shops will be intent on making sure that they are 21 and over. You walk through that door and you look young, you better pull out that ID. That's what we're educating. That's what Savada's educating. That's what VTA is educating. That's what we're all educating. And we're pushing these shops to start doing. So are we doing that inside convenience stores? I would like to know. I'm going to tell you, probably not. We're probably not having training sessions with our convenience store employees as a 7-Eleven owner and going, hey, here's the deal. I think some of them don't even know that, 21 has happened inside some of these states. So is that education happening? Probably not, because we don't help that group as an organization. So will it move the needle? Probably.
One thing that is not talked about a lot, but I know regulators in Canada have kind of seeded it as a possibility. I've heard kind of when they speak of the device design, so the form factor of the jewels. So they talk,
Like a
but
USB.
they say USB all the time, and everything
Sure,
else,
all the
but
time. That's
all
right,
the
sure.
time. But they talk about that more like in a concealing mode, like it's designed to be concealed or something. But the regulators do actually talk about the form as its own category in a way that I would think that might open up the door for them to be able to say this form factor has a problem. One of the reasons why kids like it is not just the flavors, it's a combination, it's three things. It's the flavors, it's the high nicotine, and it's the form factor.
So
So
we should make it the size of a big speaker, like the old big speakers. How's that?
well, or even the mods, right? That a lot of adults use with the tanks, right? I mean, those things
Yeah,
they
exactly.
blow big clouds. I mean, I even know for a fact, myself, right, that I love my little jewel here, because
Sure.
I can get away with things I just can't do elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was just going to say is that, hey, even adults go, hey, that's concealing. That's kind of cool. So I completely get it. Yeah, and it's a good thought, but the flexibility of those products is really good for adults just as well as minors. So is that something we're willing to hand over to? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's got to be some compromise in here, okay? Because, like I said, the other argument, it's not winning any friends. We got to find out what argument's going to win our friends and help us to keep this product on the market for these individuals and out of black market. That's all you're doing is creating a black market. Keep this product as safe as possible for the individuals that use them and keep it as whole and complete as possible. Because, like I said, there's a process these smokers go through. Those flavors are imperative. Yes, we like flavors, but they are very crucial to this process, which is why Nicoderm, CQ, sorry for the patch, for calling names, but they are only about 5% successful, where we have been known to be over 50% successful. The numbers don't lie.
No, the numbers don't lie. I think obviously part of the key thing is that smokers love smoking. I know I do, and I didn't want to quit, and I don't particularly want to quit vaping either. So I mean, if they're the opponents are just like, well, if you were just use it for 6 months and then quit, okay, but no, you're building an entire economy and a new taste culture and everything else, and that taste culture is going to drag other people into it because they know, rightly so, and in fact, actually, Martin Dockrell from Public Health England said this in a big piece that we just released on the weekend, was that one of the biggest factors that they know in terms of young people taking up tobacco smoking is, the modeling that happens from seeing parents and uncles and brothers and this and
Sure.
that do it. So they know that. So they know that us smokers that that switch to vaping but don't quit vaping, right, are gonna just by that sheer factor of doing that are gonna help participate in creating a new generation of vapors.
That's true with everybody and everything. I can drink in front of my kids and I'm making that impression. The gambling, everything. Does that mean I want the federal government to come in and tell me and nanny me like I'm a kid? No. I mean, there has to be an end to this. I mean, it has to stop at one point to where you go, hold on. I'm an adult, you know, back the heck off my drink, back the heck off my vaping. I don't need to hear that because, frankly, that's my right.
Do
I'm
you
an adult.
do you think an adult who's never smoked has the right to pick up vaping?
Of course I do. Do they have the right? Yes. And God forbid anybody tell them they don't.
Well,
I mean,
FDA
that's
says it all
what's
the time. The opponents to vaping say it
no,
all the
they can't.
time.
You know what? You don't have that right. You don't have that right to tell me what I can pick up. Are you going to tell me what vitamins to use? You going to tell me that I have to only buy organic? I mean, where does it end? No, get out of my house. This is my house. I mean, there's a line here. You stay in your dance space. This is my dance space.
Now that's a battle that obviously would help. They're not listening to that battle either there, Schell.
Well, you know what? Everybody chooses to listen to what they want. But once you step into those shoes and you become a voice for your people, you better listen to your people. I'm getting tired of them pushing forward their own agendas. Listen to the people you represent, or don't represent them.
And finally, Schell, because we're now, it just took us a little bit longer to make sure that we got our full hour and a half, because the first 5, 6, 7 minutes there, we had our audio problems. So thank you everybody for putting up with us, but we have had a successful show so far. So let's see if we can get to the end. One last question for you, and then we'll close the show. What's your message for Mr. President Trump?
Get all the pieces to the puzzle. You've got a lot of people out there that have used this product successfully to get off of tobacco. Don't push them back to smoking. Start listening to all of the sides and hear all the facts and understand what this product is doing for people across the country and why flavors are so very important. And then let's figure out a true way to address this issue that does not hurt those individuals, doesn't hurt this industry. Oh, and one last thing, get the FDA to find reasonable regulation that will not leave only big tobacco at the table at the end, and all of these individuals without a shop to go to that can show them successfully how to use this product to get off of smoking.
Yeah, and just
reasonable regulations.
Reasonable regulations. Let me just add and give you one last moment here to add on to this. It's important to note that these 30-day deadlines and bans and stuff like that have nothing to do with what was the 10-month deadline, which was industry killing.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't just have this battle. We've got a battle further up, and that one is the biggest one I want him to take away from, anything that he's listening to, is that we've got small businesses out here that are going to shut down. We've got employees that are going to be without a job. We have consumers without an outlet to go to educate them. What are you going to walk up to a convenience store and go, hey, how do you use this? Hey, how can I use this successfully to quit? Hey, there are so many answers. Hey, how about battery safety? You got a 7-Eleven employee that's going to teach them about battery safety? Show me. Where in the world are you going to find these people? Don't look 2 steps ahead. Look 10. There's a bigger picture here.
And look to 2020, Mr. President, because vapors are voters.
They are. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Schell Hammel, for coming on RegWatch Live. Thank you to all of you that were tuning in today. And, because I wasn't keying Schell, you can find information in her business is thevaporbar.com. Is that correct?
Thevaporbarstore.com.
Thevaporbarstore.com. She's in Texas. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of her stores. I highly recommend you go and visit some of her peeps. Schell, thank you so much for coming back on the show, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you for having me.